Alright friends and fellow YouTubers, welcome back to another video. I recently acquired the Avid 11 Rack and I'm loving it so far. There was a little bit of headache at first trying to get my computer to recognize it, but now that it has, I have figured out how to use this thing with a platform that I prefer using other than Pro Tools, and that is Tracktion Waveform. So this video is going to be all about using Tracktion, or using 11 Rack with Tracktion Waveform, and this is a Mac version. I'm going to be using Mac High Sierra because that's the latest driver they have at this time. They don't have it for Mojave just yet, but it may still work, I'm not sure. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and show you what is going on here. I have on this camera right here, this is the 11 Rack. I've got it set up. Up here is my Behringer Euphoria UMC 204 HD audio interface. I've had this for a couple years maybe. I love it. I was hoping to maybe get rid of it because this has a mic input, it's got guitar inputs and galore, and outputs galore, but I can't really get it to work the way I want to with OBS right now to stream or anything like that. So at least, you know, and with this I can hear myself talking, which I like to be able to hear myself talking, so I can get levels and everything down with the Behringer. Right now I couldn't figure out how to do that with the 11 Rack, but anyway, that's just, I wanted to show you the setup, and we'll kind of flip back and forth between that and the screenshot probably. But for right now, let's go to the screenshot, and you can be able to see what's going on, what you need to have to be able to make this work, okay? First of all, you need to go to Avid's website, okay? Avid's website, avid.com. Sometimes it says avid.force.com, like this one does right here, avid.force. So you need to go there and do a search for 11 Rack, okay? The first few things that pull up are really all you need for now. You have a patch for 11 drivers, 11 Rack drivers. You're going to need to get that. You have the 11 Rack editor, and this is a troubleshooting guide, and you can also, I think, download the editor from this site, and that's really something you definitely want to have. In order to make the editor work, you're going to need to install the drivers, though. It's very important. Okay, then you have the 11 Rack user guides. Now, the one that they come with, the user guide that it comes with here, let me show you real quick. It's the spiral bound, but it's not the most recent. This is just a plain user guide here. This one is 2011, and the most recent is actually that I've been able to find is 2013. So you're going to need to go try to find that one. It actually has, and I can show you what it looks like here. It actually has features in it about the 11 Rack editor. Okay, so it says 2013 right here. Okay. And you're going to see in the table of contents, of course, there's all these cool little, you know, amp names and things like that come with this thing. I actually found out that this 11 Rack does come with the 11 Rack expansion pack, which is all these names here that you have, okay? It doesn't even show all that in this manual, I don't think. Let me look at the copyright page in this manual. Oh, here we go, copyright. Yeah, it's got a few of those, but not as many as that. This was before they started including, they updated the firmware to include the 11 Rack expansion pack. Now you get all these other cool things, okay? So if you'll scroll down, you can see where it talks about the 11 Rack editor. Let me find that here. Installing the 11 Rack editor software, okay? Using Pro Tools with 11 Rack. Now, once again, I don't use Pro Tools, I use Tracktion Waveform. So we're going to tell you about doing that. Now, there is one other thing you need to do with this. And that is, make sure I'm still sharing the screen. No, I'm not. Okay, back to this. 11 Rack editor. You can see it right here. And you get all of these cool name brands with the newest version of the firmware. Okay, which comes already installed on the 11 Rack, which was amazing. I didn't have to do anything extra. I didn't have to pay the extra $99 that it would have cost. So you're going to need to install the drivers. You're going to need to go get the editor software, which will allow you to control it from your computer. It's a lot easier than having to push buttons all the time. Everything is really nice, conveniently located. I'll show you a shot of that here in a minute. But you're also going to have to but you're going to have to register your license. Now, I got mine off of Sweetwater. What they did was they sent me a code, a license code, so that I could install Pro Tools first. That's what it's called, Pro Tools First. It's the free edition of Pro Tools. And it comes with a 1-year subscription, which I don't care. I don't use it. I've already paid all this money for the extra advanced features and everything, and plugins and all that for Tracktion, so I'm going to stick with Tracktion. I like the way it works. But that's just for Pro Tools. Now, I think there's a card. Yes, there's a registration card that came with it. It's a yellow card, and it has a license number, a serial number, and some kind of registration code. You're going to need to register your device that way so that you can manage your licenses through something called iLock. And they go directly through something called iLock. It's a license manager, and that's going to allow you to be able to communicate, your computer to communicate with the 11 rack. So you need to do that to get this to work. All your stuff's got to talk to each other nowadays, which is aggravating. So you can find more about that at avid.com. If you've already done this, then you probably already know how to do this. But if you've already got the product. But anyway, that's the user manual. You're definitely going to need to do that. Let's go back to that little search area. You're going to need to install the drivers. Let's take a look at what the drivers that you need are. That's the editor. I need to go back to the drivers here. It's that one. So this is the one that you need. This is the March 2018 version, and the version is 1.2.13. When you download that, you're going to be able to, it looks like this. It's a download manager, March 2018. I added that part so I can remember which one it was. You're going to double click it. It's going to open and show you a little knob that looks just like the 11 rack knobs, the little chicken knobs there. So that's going to pop up, and you're going to double click the installer. Now, I had an issue where when I did this, it didn't work. It would not read my Avid 11 rack as a interface. And so what I ended up doing today actually is go back, run the uninstaller, and then reinstall it. So I had to restart the computer after I uninstalled it, and then I installed it again, restart again, and it finally recognized it. As you can see up here, it has the Avid 11 rack is here on the output and the input signal, okay? So you should be able to see that. If you don't, just try to run on the uninstaller and run the installer again. It should be able to communicate. Now, the problem I was having, what was weird, is that the 11 rack editor recognized it, and when I went to the system preferences and all that in Mac, where you go, you hold your option button down, and you click on system information, and you look at all the little USB things, it was registering the 11 rack, but for some reason, it just was not seeing it everywhere I needed it to see, especially my DAW, Tracktion. So when you install that, what's going to happen is in your system preferences, you'll go through the installation process and all that, and in your system preferences, it's going to have a new option here. It's called Avid 11 Rack. Looks just like that little chicken knob. Or knob. Not a little chicken head knob, but it's a regular knob. And you're going to see this. You're going to see the firmware version on the 11 Rack, which is 2.00.1. That's the one. That's the latest one that comes with the 11 Rack package, the expansion pack. And you're going to see the software version, which I showed you right down here, the March 14, 2018, 1.1.3, the driver, 1.1.3, that's the driver version. That's the latest they have. And it's for Mac High Sierra. You can see that down here. Sample rate right now is currently set to 48 kilohertz. That's what the default is, but you can go as high as 96. This is the digital clock source. Don't really know much about that, but you have SPDIF in the back. You have the AES EBU. Internal, I'm not sure if that's the USB out or what exactly that is, but that's what was defaulted to, and I'm going to leave it alone. And then it says streaming audio at 48 kilohertz. Before, this was grayed out. This was grayed out, and this said device not connected, even after I install this. So that's what I'm saying. Don't give up. The last straw was I was going to end up having to call tech support if this didn't work today, but thankfully it worked, and I figured it out on my own. So download those drivers, install it right here. Right there. You'll see it in your system preferences, and then it'll tell you all about this stuff. And this is what allows your computer to communicate with the 11 rack editor, which looks like this, okay? So you can do all your settings, change all your inputs, get your tuner, you look at your user options to change all the outputs, what those are, the effects loop, what the input positions are, output 1 and output 2, and all this other stuff. You can change all that in your editor, which is a lot easier than having to go through a bunch of submenus and everything on the device itself. So you definitely want that. Okay, so that's the drivers. We're done with that. Also, you'll see real quick on that search, the other thing that pulled up was the expansion pack audio plugin. Now, if you click on that, you'll be able to see all the things that come with 11 rack, the new versions of it, the 2.0.01, that's this firmware here. you'll be able to see all that. That's already in the 11 racks, which is really cool. So you get to see all that. I won't go into that now. You can check that for yourself. And once again, I found this by going to Avid, and I did a search for 11 rack, and it may work on, you may have to go to like support and do a search from there, maybe, I don't know, but that's how I found it. The next thing is the 11 rack editor, the troubleshooting, and this is where you're going to find the editor, and this is a really good resource anyway, just for some overall knowledge. It talks about the drivers, talks about the other things, okay. To use the editor, you must first install the latest driver, okay. And then the editor readmes, the user guides. Now this is the important. This is the newest user guide. Okay. Now I don't know if this other thing that said user guides down here, I don't know if that has the latest user guide. It's actually 2012, so it probably does not. The latest user guide is 2013, so you probably need to get it from this 11 rack editor, which will show you. That's actually where I found it. The 11 rack user guide has been updated with information and instructions pertaining to the 11 rack editor. So I actually downloaded it from this page, this troubleshooting page. And then it's available for download here, okay? Now, if I go to this, let's see where it takes us, because the one I had to enter my email information so that they could send me an actual download, which was fine by me. You can always subscribe if you don't want to. So where does it? Okay, good. It actually takes you to the download managers. You don't have to worry about entering your email or anything like that if you go there. So that's why I said this is an amazing resource. This whole troubleshooting guide, this is definitely what you want. So definitely download the editor. Check out this page. Now let's see how it works with Tracktion. Okay, let's go back to Tracktion, and we will see exactly how this is going to work. So waveform here. Let's pull it up, and it was giving me some hiccups a while ago. So hopefully it'll sound good now. First thing we need to do, okay, we need to make sure that the outputs and everything are set correctly. So let's do that real quick. I'm going to close that out and reopen it, make sure it sounds right. I am running OBS, so this is actually why this is taking a little bit longer. Not exactly sure what my resources are right now. Doesn't look too bad. Okay, hopefully this will sound right now. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. You need to go to settings. Let's just open Tracktion. Here's how you get it to work. You're going to open Tracktion. You're going to go to settings, first thing. Audio devices. So that's what we need. Our input is 11 rack. Okay. My output right now is the Behringer thing, so that I can actually hear it in here and not the speakers. You would want it to be on your speakers normally. For me, that would be built-in output. Okay. But since I don't want the speakers bleeding into this microphone here, I've got it on the actual audio interface that I'm using. So let's look at what we've got here. These are all the inputs. These are the outputs. So output should be whatever your built-in output is. Okay. But what I have enabled, the guitar input, this is your dry channel. You're going to want that enabled. Okay. That's the guitar going into the device before it even hits any of the rig processing. That's just a plain dry signal from the guitar. That's what you need, the DI signal, if you will. Your mic input is if you're using your mic to talk, that's fine. I've got it enabled. The 11 rig, left and right, I've got both of these enabled, but really you only need the left one if you're doing mono. The right is for if you're doing stereo. I don't have any stereo connection. It's going straight, for me, it's going straight in for USB, so it's going to automatically be stereo to me, I think. So I may have to double check that later on if I do any like ping pong delays or anything like that. But for now, really all I use is the 11 rig left channel. Okay. So these I do not have enabled because I'm not got them plugged in the back. The digital input, I think that's the SPDIF connection that you're in and out there. And then you have a line input, which I don't have anything feeding into that. So I've got these disabled. You can put them enabled if you want them. But really the only things you need is your guitar input and the 11 rig. This is the actual rig, the signal, the whole signal from all the amps and cabinets and effects and everything fed into, that's your wet signal fed into the Tracktion. Okay, so those, you're going to have your input is your Avid 11 rack, is what my computer recognizes it as, and your output's going to be whatever default is for your speaker so you can hear it and mix and everything. And that may even be, your output may be It could be the 11 rack, because when you go to the 11 rack, you have a digital output left and a digital output right. You have your main outputs. This is for your speakers. If you have XLR speakers connected, then you may want the output to be 11 rack so that you can feed it through your speakers. You may want it to be through your computer. That's totally up to you. But I'm going to put it back on UMC and do a test on, make sure I can still hear it. Yeah, I heard that. We've been having issues. I've been having issues for some reason with Tracktion since I started recording here. I don't know why. We may not be able to hear this after all if it's still doing that. I don't know why it's doing that. Alright, anyway, let's continue on. The show must go on. Okay, so we'll open this up, and if it doesn't work, I'll just push through it and show you what settings you need to have. Okay, so if I push play, yeah, it's terrible. Alright, and I've already restarted, waveform several times. I'm probably going to have to restart the whole computer, and I don't want to do that because I'm recording. I don't have to splice videos and all that. Okay, so what we have, this is the thing that I just recorded today, just a little lick that I came up with. And I can actually let you hear what it sounds like. Since I can't do it here, let's just go ahead and show you that. Hopefully this picks up. Alright. Now, this is actually coming in the same audio interface, so it's mixed with the mic signal. This is not a desktop audio signal because it's not feeding, for some reason it's not recognizing it in from the 11 rack to my computer. But anyway, the lick is just something I came up with after playing around with a little E minor type chord progression, basically E to C. So I came up with a lick, like a really crescendo, parts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Something like that. I can't remember exactly the timing, but now I've got it recorded so that I've got a metronome to it, so that's cool. But anyway, that was the lick. Something like that. Let me look at myself all in there. Maybe not. Anyway, so it sounds better on the recording, obviously. But that's what it was. And to get that both dry and wet signal, let's go back to the screen here so I can show you what I'm doing. You're going to need to have the input 11 rig enabled on one, and that's this one, okay? And I prefer the wet channel on top, so I've got 11 rig left on top. And then for the dry signal, you're going to need to have that on another track. So you're going to record both of these so that you can reamp it later. Now, that editor I just showed you, the 11 rack editor, it's not, I don't know if they still sell it as a plugin or not, but it is, it used to just be called 11. It was its own standalone plugin for Pro Tools or whatever. Well, then they came up with the actual 11 rack. So now it's 11 rack. So it's all those cool effects and everything in a rack device. And so you can't use the 11 rack editor. My point with that is this is not a plugin. When you download the editor, this is not a plugin that you can use as a separate plugin here. To my knowledge, anyway. It'd be cool if I scanned the plugins again and it found it or something. But to my knowledge, you can't do that, and you have to actually reamp the device. Okay. So what has to happen here is when you go in and you record both of these, you'll have both a wet and a dry signal. So I know it's not going to make a sound right, but if I play this, you can tell there's a little bit of distortion in it. Maybe you can't because the desktop audio is not working. Anyway, you can't hear that. There's some distortion here, but you can definitely tell. See how much bigger the waveform is here? And then this small waveform. This is the dry signal, okay? So we have the dry signal here that's recorded from guitar input. And we have the wet signal with all your effects that's recorded with the 11 rig left, or how many ever input you need. Okay, so now next, to reamp this, what we have to do is we have to do a couple of different things. And we can do this on the editor. We can also do it on the actual device. I'll show you how to do them both. Up here, what you're going to need to do is make sure this says rig input reamp. Okay, You have to reamp it. This takes the signal from your DAW, feeds it into the 11 rack, and then brings it back out into your DAW again. It's almost like an effects return send type thing, so that your DAW can register it. And what you'll do is you'll print that, or in other words, put another channel on there and record it to a new channel so that you'll be able to see it, okay? Now, I'm not going to record it, and you might not be able to hear it. It's not going to be sounding clean. You might not even be able to hear it all because of this stupid audio issue we've got going on. Maybe I can add another desktop audio thing real quick. You know, this may have something to do with the resampling. I kind of in the back of my mind think it does. So instead of putting it on 48 kilohertz, I might just put it down to 44.1. I can't do that now because I'm recording while I'm doing this, but I think that's probably what the issue is. And now that I think about it, that may be what the issue is with this. Alright, note to self, do not mess with any of these sampling rates while you're trying to record on OBS, because then the sound will completely go mute for the rest of the video. So, I'm going back and re-recording what happened after this so that we can get everything working. And everything right now, so far, is working, and you should be able to hear the audio and everything, so let's get on to it. Without further ado, hopefully this will work. Alright, so back in Tracktion. I'm going to start from the section where talking about how to get this set up for Tracktion. Okay, so now you can hear the riff in its entirety. You should be able to anyway, what it sounds like here. And it's these tracks here. Okay, I've got this one on solo, and we'll get to hear what it sounds like. Okay, so there was that. Now with the click track, here's how it sounds in time. Okay, so that's what it sounds like. Now here's the dry track, so that you can see that this is proof. I recorded this at the exact same time. Again. Okay, so you get to hear that. Now, what we're going to do is show you how to reamp this, okay? Now, what we have to do first is, let's go within Tracktion and change the setting here, okay? By the way, I tried this again earlier and found out that the Avid 11 rack was gone again. So what my suggestion is on that is that if it's not there when you turn your computer on, make sure you restart with the unit on before the computer restarts. Okay, so every time you turn your computer on, the unit itself, the 11 rack, needs to be on so that it can recognize it upon boot up. All right, so that was the problem that I was having earlier. So it may not have been a driver problem. In fact, it may have just been that. Either way, it works now. That's what I'm happy about. All right, so let's go within settings and Tracktion. What we need to do is we need to have the output. Remember I said the output earlier was your speakers. Well, now we have to have the output set to the 11 rack itself. Now, I've got a multi-device output because if I don't do it this way and combine several outputs, then you won't be able to hear it and I won't be able to hear it. So I've got an aggregate device, a multi-output device on my audio MIDI controls here. And the setup is Soundflower, my audio interface where I'm listening to this on the headphones, and the Avid 11 rack itself. So that seems to work. So that's why I'm going to leave it. And you can look up, if you need to figure out how to get your audio working on OBS, you can look that up, and that's where I figured out how to do this. But anyway, back here, this needs to be set to Avid 11 rack or whatever device you create that includes Avid in it. Okay? So, now, that needs to happen because that will allow us to reamp our 11 rack. Okay? That should allow us to do so anyway. There's the 11 rack. It should have a reamp here. This one should also include a reamp. It's not showing it, but let's hope it works. Nope, I don't see it here. Alright, so what that means is I'm just going to set it on Avid 11 Rack. That doesn't make sense because Avid is included here. Unless it needs to be like an aggregate output advice or something like that. But that's not the way this works. Multi-output device. Aggregate is input. This is output, I think. So, yeah, that should work. Anyway, you still probably be able to hear this. I don't know. But this will work. So we need to have the setting to where we can have this reamp enabled. So, it's set now. We have these enabled to reamp. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the guitar input, the one that's labeled guitar input. Now to record these, you have to have this set up to 11 rig. This is the input because that is your signal going in. Okay. And I'm hoping that I covered this. I don't know if I covered this or not, so I'm going to do a quick review over this real quick. The 11 rig is the signal from the rig itself and all the processing. Okay. The guitar input is the dry signal. So 11 rig is the wet signal, guitar input is the dry signal. Now what we're going to have to do to get this to reamp, we've already done that. We've already set the outputs because it has to feed into the 11 rack and then feed back into the computer itself. This has to be some kind of like, it's almost like an effects send and return loop. Okay, so those outputs are fixed. Now we go down here to the dry signal, okay, that's the guitar input, and we're going to tell it to go to the reamp, all right? Now something else that's very important, this will not work unless your 11 rack is set to reamp as well. Now I've got the 11 rack editor open, and you change that up here and you change it to reamp, okay? But I'll also show you real quick, before I forget, make sure to change this back to guitar when you're done reamping, or you won't get any sound from your guitar, and you'll wonder what's going on. It's because the guitar input is not selected. I just found that out just a minute ago. There's a lot of stuff going on with this. Okay, so I'll show you real quick how to do this on the actual 11 rack itself. That's right here. You're going to press and hold this edit back button, okay, and you're going to go to the top one, which is rig input, all right? Click your select here. That corresponds to whatever right there. And you're going to make sure that that says reamp. Okay? Make sure it says reamp. All right? Now, when you do this on the editor, if I go back to the editor, you'll see that it's up here now. It says reamp. Okay? So I can change it either here or on the unit itself. All right? So, once that's set to reamp, we should be good to go. We go back here to Tracktion. This is set to reamp. That's the output destination from the dry channel. The output and the input is both set to 11 rack, okay? And then what happens then is we take and play this, and then we can switch back and forth. And what you need to do is create a new track, okay? So let's create a new track, all right? Scroll down here, zoom out on that. And this needs to be the 11 rig output, okay? So we're going to record, enable this one, take that one off. We're going to make sure that this one is muted because we don't want the wet signal, we want the dry signal. And now we have the 11 rig is where it's going to feed this into here, and that 11 rig is the sounds. It's going to feed the dry signal through the 11 rack back into Tracktion. So that's what's happening. That's the signal chain, if you will. So let's go back, and I'm going to switch around some of the settings here so you can actually see. You may not be able to hear it until I play it back here in just a minute, but you should be able to see it happen here. And I'm going to switch back to that real quick so I can see if the audio is working. Let me go ahead and play this. Okay, so what you just heard, that did work. That's really good. That did work. What you just heard was the dry signal being fed back in. I'll prove that. Let's go ahead and record this, and I'll switch around some of the knobs here. The actual 11 rack here. Let's do this. I'm going to enable that Logitech camera here. Okay, so you should be able to see that. Zoom out. Right there. All right, you should be able to see me tweak this as well as what's happening on the screen, so that's awesome. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and record this. It is enabled. It's on 11 rig setting. The output's there, and we're going to see what we get. And And there we have a newly reamped signal. I don't know what happened here at the very beginning, but we can trim that if we need to. Now I can go back and solo this one spot, and now this dry signal has just reamped into 3 different settings here. Okay, so let's go back and listen to that. Oops, we got to change this to output here. Put that back to where it was. This audio now is default. This goes away because this is no output, so make sure to change that back as well. Okay, and also before I forget, this goes back to guitar so that when I play, I will hear sound. So let's listen to it. Okay, one more time just to make sure you heard it. And there we go, friends. I can't believe that worked finally. So hopefully my work is done here. So that's a lot of steps, I know. It's a lot to think about, but it's proof that it does work with Tracktion. I am so happy that it does. And I'm glad I've got this video now as a record of how to do it. Okay, it's very important that all the outputs, all the signal chains be worked out so that it feeds back into itself. Okay, so step 1. Enable your 11 rack to reamp, okay? Whether it's through this or whether it's through the actual settings down here, okay? Doesn't matter. Step 2, in waveform or Tracktion, set your output to the 11 rack and your input to the 11 rack. That creates that little signal effects loop type thing. Step 3, select your dry signal that you've just recorded, okay? And make it sure it says reamp. Okay. Step 4, create a new track and make sure the input is 11 rig. Step 5, make sure the only thing playing is the dry. Okay, it's going to feed into this. Make sure that's record enabled. That's step 6, I guess. And then step 7, push play. Not actually push record. It will record from whatever that effect is, and you should be able to hear the change here in your reamp. Okay, so the disadvantage to this is that you're having to change a lot of things and that it's not a plugin that actually works. Unlike the PV, I've got the PV Revolver 4, which is a separate plugin. I can put it in here and just reamp on the fly. You basically need to reamp, find a preset you like, and then reamp it through that preset. Okay, so those are the steps to reamping. The steps to recording in the first place to get this to get this signal here is it doesn't really matter. The output needs to be like your built-in output. Okay, I usually just choose. Well, I'm choosing this one because I created it. Make sure that this is on default output now. Make sure that this is enabled for the 11 rig. I usually put the wet signal on top and the dry signal on bottom. And then you basically start your metronome and start recording and make sure that this is set to guitar, okay? It will process, it will show all the processing there. And then you can record and enable both of them, both tracks. Okay, this one's called DI because what I've done is I've called it 11 rack. The track name is 11 rack. The preset was H1 metal spread. And then this is the same thing, but it says DI. This is for the dry guitar, the direct input, if you will. And then just make sure that both of these are on solo, that nothing else, records with it and doesn't get you out of time if that's what you want. And then just start recording, and that's how you do it. Okay, so this has been a very lengthy process for me dealing with this. So I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. I hope it's been informative. I hope it's maybe helped you get through some hurdles of recording in other DAWs. Just take this to be some advice for your other DAWs too. It all relates to what your outputs are set to. That's a big thing, and all this other signal chain stuff, just keep that in mind. I hope it's not too big of a process to kind of steer you away from 11 rack, because so far I love it. It's an amazing effects processor, and it does work on things besides Pro Tools. So I don't have to install Pro Tools now. It works without it, so I was so happy with that. But I've got some more ideas. There's probably going to be some more 11 rack videos coming pretty soon, because I'm really digging this, really having fun with it. and I may even do a lesson video on that lick that I just came up with. I really enjoy playing those fast licks, and with this tone, is some of the best tone I've ever had personally. It makes it even more fun to play, and you want to play even more and become a better player because of it. So thank you so much for watching. Please check out, if you haven't already, my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/ericbeatty, where I have all kinds of exclusive content that's not available anywhere else. I have entire albums on there, some live music that I've played and sung in various venues, churches, and festivals and things like that, and I keep trying to add some more to those. Every now and then there'll be some videos that go up that are only on Patreon, and maybe I have a live stream on there, and some early release notifications of new YouTube videos, just things like that. And also, please check out bluegrassguitaressentials.com/arpeggios. That's the website link for my brand new course that's coming out hopefully pretty soon. It's called Bluegrass Guitar Arpeggios, and I'm really excited about this project. I've got a few more videos to edit and do some diagrams. I've been kind of doing those side by side as I edit the videos, and also do a little bit of tablature. I've been doing a lot of tabs lately, and so I'm going to do some of my own tabs for that. So it's all spearheaded by me, and I look forward to it to being as good a success, or maybe even better than my Bluegrass Guitar Essentials product and the course. So thank you so much for watching. Please check out these websites, and I'll see you on the next video, whatever that may be. We'll see you next time. Enjoy your 11 rack, because I know I'm enjoying mine. Thanks for watching.